Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
So Chetan has been using at a Vietnamese hacking group, and you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my talk today. I'll start with a short introduction. So I'm Chetan Raghuprasad. I work as a threat researcher at Cisco Talos, and I'm based in Singapore. And this research I've done with my colleague, and I would like to introduce him as well today, and his name is Joy Shen. He is based in Taiwan. So today, in this talk, I'm going to discuss with you related to Vietnamese cybercrime threat landscape. And we also see three different campaigns looking into it to see what level of sophistication these Vietnamese cybercrime threat actors are displaying. And then we will take a look at the attribution part, that what we saw related to these actors and why we think that they are of Vietnamese origin related to the stuff. And then the takeaway, that what we can take away from this talk. So to start with, the Vietnamese cybercrime background. So this Vietnamese cyber threat landscape has evolved rapidly in recent years. That is making a shift from regionally focused cybercrime to a broader and more global threat profile kind of. And these cyber criminals, they have their own malwares, and they are often using some advanced tactics and some commercialized models they are instrumenting in their attacks. Since the pandemic, after the pandemic, or since the pandemic started, we have seen that these Vietnamese actors, that they have developed or increasingly developed some of the sophisticated information stealing malwares that we have seen in the reports, such as Brodo Stealer, Sam Stealer, Viet Credit Card. So these were seen being used to target domestic as well as their the international victims as well. So along this line, we have also seen these Vietnamese threat actors using some ransomware variants, and one of which we spotted during our research was they were using Yashma ransomware variants to target some of the countries like Bulgaria, China, Vietnam, and also other countries with some level of modifications that they were using in Yashma. And to call out, Yashma is nothing but Kavos 6th variant, which they have did some modification and used in their attacks. So these were the background, I would say, that they were using. But along with this, we discovered a new actor, which we call them as Coral Rider. And they were based out of Vietnam, and we saw them, they were active since 2023 with an intent of data theft and hijacking social media accounts for financial gains. And with the notable TTPs that we saw, they were leveraging social engineering and data exfiltration, and they were also using dead dropping techniques, and with the customized commodity loaders as their malware toolings. And they use plenty of commodity loaders to name with RotBot, XClient Stealer, NetSupportRAT, AsyncRAT, CryptBot, Luma C2, and Radmantis. And assessing the intrusions and the campaign, we saw that they were targeting countries like India, China, South Korea, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Indonesia, Vietnam, and Ukraine. So along with this line, this is a new actor that we found. And also, we found two other interesting campaigns. And one of the campaign where they were using a new stealer called PXA Stealer. And another one, they were using Luma Stealer in that campaign, which we classified as like phishing campaign using copyright infringement theme in their attacks. So these are the attacks or the intrusions that we saw which are related to the Vietnamese cyber crime or the Vietnamese cyber threat actors. So now, with this background, let us closely take a look at the 3 different campaigns to assess the level of sophistication or the TTPs that they were using and how they have instrumented the attacks in terms of dropping these payloads that we saw in this background information. So the first campaign that I would like to talk about is operated by the actor Coral Rider, which they targeted Asia and Southeast Asian countries. So in this campaign, we saw 2 different intrusions. So in the first intrusions that we saw, this is the attack cycle, or I would say the entire attack summary, where they used Windows shortcut file as the initial vector that has got built-in PowerShell commands, and that PowerShell command downloaded an HTA file which was hosted on the download server controlled by the attacker, and they ran the HTA file. This HTA file has got the embedded VB script, which ran a couple of PowerShell commands in the form of script. And we saw 4 different stages of PowerShell scripts that got executed in the victim's machine memory, where the first stage script that resulted to the second stage script, and it acted as a decryptor that it decrypted and ran the second stage script. And the third stage script had got some functionalities like anti-VM and anti-analysis and UAC bypass techniques, and which led to the execution of the 4th stage downloader PowerShell script, which connected to the download server and downloaded the first stage payload called RotBot loader. So this acted as a loader kind of malware, and I'll go in detail that what is this RotBot and what is its functionalities and how it loaded the second stage loader. But to summarize this RotBot loader, that when executed, it connected to the legitimate site, which is a Google Doc, where the attacker has hosted a config file masquerading as system like settings.xml, which had a Telegram bot ID as well as a Telegram token, which was used by this RotBot loader to connect to the Telegram bot C2, where it exfiltrated some of the recon data that it did. Then at the next stage, this RotBot loader, it reflectively loaded the next stage payloader called XClient stealer from its resource. And then this XClient stealer also used the Telegram bot and Telegram token ID from this config file to connect to the Telegram C2 to do its all stealing operations that we're going to see at the later stage. So this is about the first intrusion. And also I would like to take a closer look at the initial vector, the shortcut file that they used in this first intrusion, where they've used a couple of naming conventions, which you can see somewhat it is kind of targeting like Korean, Chinese, and some other names that they have used. And we also spotted some of the unique drive serial numbers, which could be related to the actors when we try to pivot that. And also another interesting thing which we spotted here in this LNK file is the usage of a lol bin called forfiles.exe, which was slightly uncommon that we have not seen in many cases that which was used. They've used this forfile.exe to run the PowerShell command, which is the downloader PowerShell command, the first stage, which we saw in the attack summary diagram. So this is about the first intrusion. In the second intrusion, it was almost similar, but instead of a download server controlled by the attacker, here they upgraded that by using CDN cache, where they hosted the malicious HTA file. So they have done this to evade the network detection and to seem the traffic as a legitimate traffic. And the payload that they have used in this intrusion cycle is bit different here. In this intrusion, they've used CryptBot, Luma C2, and Radmantis as the payloads. Rest of the other things like PowerShell decryptor scripts or the UAC bypass scripts and those things that we saw in the first intrusion was seen similar in this second intrusion as well. And also here in the initial vector, that is the shortcut file, in this second intrusion, they have made it a bit more generic, like using some movie-related files or something that they've used. But another thing interesting what we found here is this PowerShell script that I've highlighted in orange color. This is the PowerShell command that we spotted that they've used to run to download the HTA file from the CDN cache. And also, pivoting on this PowerShell command in the open source Intel space, we saw that there are plenty of link files that are keep appearing continuously, which also showed us that this Coral Rider operator is continuously operating in the threat landscape. And some of the CDN cache that we found or we spotted during our research, which were hosting some of these information stealers, like the payloads that I mentioned, which you can see here. And also, to see the similarities between these two intrusions to identify these two intrusions belongs to the same campaign, and that is operated by the Coral Rider. Based on the TTPs, we saw that they used LNK and PowerShell. That led to the execution of HTA, which led to the information stealer. And then with the intent or the motive was similar in both the cases, that is to steal the victim's credentials or the financial data, and the UAC bypass techniques that they've used. This is one of the interesting things which I go through, that they have abused a lol bash called forhelper.exe as well as a registry key, curver registry key. And then the PowerShell script, which I mentioned, that are mostly similar in both the cases. One we saw with the CryptBot campaign, and another one we saw with the RotBot campaign. So I was telling about the UAC bypass technique. So let's see what they did there to achieve that. So here, they abused a registry key called curver registry key. And what is this curver registry? It's actually a programmatic identifier, like the prog ID, which is associated with the COM class object model. And they are abusing an executable called forhelper.exe. So what will happen? Usually when this forhelper.exe, which is a legitimate Windows executable that is used to manage features in Windows settings, whenever it runs first, it loads MS settings registry key where the curver registry key will be configured. So what this actor did in this intrusion is that they created a prog ID called .omg, and they have linked that .omg prog ID to the curver registry key, which is returned to the MS settings registry key. So when they executed forhelper.exe, it loaded the MS settings registry key, which in turn loaded the curver registry key, which ran the PowerShell scripts that they have configured there, which is the fourth stage downloader PowerShell script that downloaded the first stage RotBot payload. So this is one of the interesting things that we observed in these intrusions. And now, talking about the Coral Rider payloads that they've used in these two intrusions. The first one was RotBot. So what is this RotBot? It is actually a customized variant of QuasarRAT client. So they have modified this client to behave or operate as a loader malware, and which has got some features like to evade the detection or perform recon and modify the proxy settings and function as a loader, like what we saw, that it loads the XClient stealer payload from its resource section. And then, about the XClient stealer malware. So this is a stealer malware that we found, which has the capability to evade the antivirus software evasion checks, as well as to detect the virtual environment. And it also has the capability to capture screenshots and steal credentials and financial data, targeting variety of browsers from Chrome, Microsoft Edge, Opera, Brave, Cocoa, and Firefox browsers. And then it also hijacks and steals data from victims' social media, personal business, as well as the advertisement accounts, including Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. So they steal these data from the Telegram desktop app as well, that what we saw in some of the samples that we identified. And hijacking the Facebook accounts and all, they've used APIs of the Facebook, like one of which example, which you can see, the graph.facebook.com that they've used. And all these data that they gather were seen exfiltrated to the Telegram C2 through the Telegram APIs that are /send document, send photo, and send messages, which they were doing with these XClient stealer. And the next payload related to this Coral Rider actor was CryptBot. And this CryptBot is the very typical or the known information stealer that were designed to target Windows system, which was discovered in the wild way long ago, that is 2019. And also, in this intrusion, we find a new version of this CryptBot variant that were seen distributed in the wild since Jan 2024. And the actual goal of this new CryptBot is similar to the previous one, but with some new modified functionalities in that we saw. And this new sample was also VM protected. So the targeted data and applications, the CryptBot, which it targeted those data and applications that we saw in this new variant, where like variety of browsers and applications, as well as cryptocurrency wallets that you can see some of those that I have listed here. And also, interestingly, this CryptBot variant that it targeted to steal credentials from password manager database. And the attacker has developed this sample in such a way that it also tries to look for the extension of these database files based on the different versions, keeping in mind that the different victims might have different versions of those databases, and which will have different file extensions that they have catered in this sample to detect them and facilitate them. Then it also steals data from authenticator applications that we have seen in these samples. So this is about the CryptBot payload. Another payload that we saw was Luma C2. And we have seen plenty of things about the Luma C2, which is going on, which is a well-known information stealer. And here in this sample, what we saw that they had customized obfuscation algorithms that they have been implemented. And also, we saw that the C2 domains that are encrypted, and they've encrypted with symmetric encryption algorithms in this Luma C2 sample, and they were targeted to steal victims' data. And the interesting fact here, one of the difference that we saw is here they have included to steal the Discord credentials. So that is one difference that we saw, that they were trying to steal the Discord credentials. And also, by analyzing some variety of Luma C2s that are related to these intrusions, we found that this Luma C2 will try to send the information to command and control by encrypting the data using symmetric encryption, and in each iterations that they have used different keys. That is one thing that we have observed here. And the next payload that we saw was Radmantis stealer. This is also a well-known information stealer that we have seen in the underground that they started being advertised since September 2022. And a new version that has been also recently released, which is version 0.6.0. And in this campaign, the attacker executed it as a Python executable loader. So how they did the execution was based on our observation. This had two different stages. So in the first stage, they used a Python decoder script, which actually that replaced binary code from 0 to 9, and that decodes the second stage script. And the second stage Python script was actually an injector script that it allocated memory blocks using Windows APIs, and then it injected the stealer into the process. And these were the two targeted process that we saw, dialer as well as the open with .exe. So this is the cycle of the Radmantis malware executable that we saw in this intrusion. And interestingly, the first stage decoder Python script that I mentioned, which is actually a binary stub replacer crypter. So we try to pivot the script or the related information, and we saw that there were around 73 such type of BSR PyInstaller sample having these scripts. And this script, we saw that one of the script with the name bsr.py, and which was similar to the name called binary stub replacer.py, which we saw on VT. There were plenty of samples. And the second stage script that I mentioned, which functioned as an injector, we saw some parts of the scripts resembled, or they were using the open source project, this is Condor project, as well as some other parts of the script that resemble them being using another open source project called Divinity Protector. But together, combining those information and as a whole script of the second stage, which we couldn't find anywhere on the open source, and which could be a custom developed injector script that they have used in these intrusions. And also pivoting on these BSR stub replacer crypter, we found a couple of malwares that were being dropped or used, one of which is Radmantis, another one called Mario Loader, then Luma Stealer, and then also a new ABD downloader that Cyphertext Solutions had named it as an ABD downloader, that they were using dead-drop resolver for configuration and download addresses, which we saw related to this crypter. So this is about the first campaign related to the Coral Rider actor. Now let's see the second campaign, which is a phishing mail campaign that they were targeting mainly Taiwan. So we saw that they were using this copyright infringement themes in their phishing emails, and they were targeting some well-known industrial motor manufacturers and online shopping stores in Taiwan. And also they were using some fake PDFs which were related to some technology and media companies in Taiwan and Hong Kong. So in this campaign, if we take a look at the summary of the infection cycle, then with this phishing malware, they had a download link. They used this drive-by download technique to connect to Dropbox or some of the legitimate domain like appspot.com that they have used. And then they downloaded some encrypted archive file, which contained an image printing file as well as a fake PDF, and fake PDF were masquerading as a legitimate PDF file, which is actually a malware that is payload Luma C2 or Radmantis malware, and that connects to the C2. And here, the interesting thing is the hosting server. Here, this actor, they have used this third-party data service storage as a download server to deceive the network defenders. Example that we saw, one is this appspot.com domain, and then some short URLs, as well as Dropbox service and some of the domains, I think, which we can. see here, it is very small. So they were abusing these services to host their malicious contents on it, and as well as the fake PDFs that they've used, they embedded Luma C2 or Radmantis information stealer into it, and some of the copyright names or the organization names that they've used, which resembled some of the legitimate organizations that have listed here, or legitimate products or tools that were listed here. And again, when it comes to the payload, that is, they've used Luma C2, another variant here, which targeted the system details, web browser, and cryptocurrency wallets and browser details here. And we saw similar functionalities here, but the way that they executed this Luma C2 here is that they have configured, or they put a call to an unknown library to run their malicious code functions. That is, the encrypted Luma C2 was in the form of like encrypted shell code, which decrypted and they executed it. When it comes to another payload, which is Radmantis, which is also like similar to the first campaign that we discussed about the payloads. But here we saw numerous anti-analysis executions, or the anti-analysis technique that they have used in this sample. And we saw them, it was like heavily obfuscated, which has got persistence and evasion techniques that were inbuilt in these samples. And then we saw that this particular sample, they created in such a way that when it was executed, that it expand to a file which is like 700 MB. So this is one thing that we observed, and they might be doing to evade the antivirus detection, or like evade the sandbox environment scanning stuff. So this is about the second campaign. And now the third campaign that I'm going to discuss is related to this new stealer that we discovered called PXA stealer, and the campaign that they were targeting Europe and Asian countries. In this PXA stealer campaign, the attacker's motive is, again, like data theft or the financial information theft. And here they targeted a variety of crypto desktop wallet or crypto browser wallets, and then password managers, VPN clients, gaming applications, as well as the messenger apps that they have used, that they have targeted to exfiltrate the data from. And how the attack cycle or the infection cycle looked like with respect to this third campaign, the PXA stealer campaign, is that started with a phishing email, and which had got a malicious zip attachment. And this malicious zip attachment, when it is unzipped by the users after getting deceived, then it drops a batch script and a Rust loader executable. And when the victim got compromised and to run this Rust loader executable, that in turn run the batch script, which was dropped, which batch script was executed. And this batch script, it was a lengthy batch script, and which had several functionalities. So the first thing what it did is that it connected to an attacker-controlled host. Then it downloaded a malicious zip file masquerading as a legitimate zip file with the name synaptics.zip, and which had a portable Python executable, which is synaptics.exe. So that it created the environment first, made it ready to execute the further malicious Python scripts. And then secondly, it downloaded another Python script, which they used to evade the antivirus detections. And then finally, they downloaded this PXA stealer, which is actually a Python script, and they called it as PXA bot. And they downloaded it from the same hosting site, and they executed it with the help of this portable Python executable, which started to communicate to the C2, Telegram C2 bot. So this is the infection cycle of this PXA stealer campaign. And another thing is the zip file which we observed here also, along with this malicious Rust loader executable, we also saw some decoy documents where they've also used this copyright infringement in their file names as well. And to talk about the PXA stealer, what are its functionalities? Firstly, to talk about the evasion tactics that it has. So it executed some commands to kill specifically some endpoint detection softwares, network capture and analysis processors, some VPN software, cryptocurrency wallets, and some file transfer client application, web browsers, and instant messaging applications. It attempted to kill all these processes if it gets detected on the victim's machine. And nextly, about the harvest function, there were extensive functions that were written. Firstly, that to target the browser master key related stuff. They had a browser master key decryption function that is for stealing the Chrome and Chromium-based browser, or like key4.db file to decrypt that and get the password that is stored in that. And then to steal login credentials, they had a different function, and then to target and steal the browser cookies, credit card information, and also browser autofill data, and then Discord token. And here mainly they were targeting Min software application database, and the SQLite database files also we saw in the PXA stealer scripts that they were targeting. And then finally, the Facebook data-related stuff that they were trying to target to steal them. And related to the exfiltration activities, they exfiltrated to the Telegram bot, which was hard-coded in the script that we identified. And before they exfiltrate, they try to rename the archives that they were created of all the collected information before they exfiltrate them to the victims, to their C2 bot. And after exfiltrating that, they deleted all those archives that they have created. So this is related to the third campaign. And we saw all the three campaigns, and we have seen the techniques that they have used and the level of sophistication that they have instrumented in their attacks, and also the payloads that they have used, some of them that they modified and created and they've used in their attack. Now let's take a look at the attribution part, that based on what we thought that all these campaigns or the intrusions that were conducted by these cyber criminals are related to or of Vietnamese origin or related to some Vietnamese-speaking actors. So first one was related to language preferences that they've used in their samples itself. For example, stealing Facebook data, that they were mapping all the specific fields in the Facebook to the equivalent names in the Vietnamese language before they write it to an exfiltration file. And then we saw some of the PDB strings that were of Vietnamese name, and also some images that were used in these intrusions were similar to the legitimate websites that were hosting those images. That is one aspect that we considered. And then we saw some of the underground activities that these threat actors are doing, and then also some of the Vietnamese word in the hard-coded binary that I mentioned. And then also, we saw a Telegram bot server or a Telegram account that seems to be located in Hanoi, Vietnam. And let's see the first one. That, as I mentioned, the Vietnamese words in the binary that we identified, as well as the PDB strings, which contains these Vietnamese names by analyzing a couple of samples related to these campaigns. And then we saw the Vietnamese words on the same image on the internet. I mean, the first one which you saw the EPS file, previous image in this campaign. I mean, the left side one and the image that we found on the right side. The left side one was found being used in the malware. And then, now comes the interesting fact, actually. During our research, while we were analyzing these samples and these actors and their Telegram environment, we saw that the actors were using two Telegram bots. One, they named it as debug bot, and then another one named it as online bot. And debug bot, they were using it for debugging stuff or something, and then online bot, where they were trying to receive the victim's data. However, I mean, a desktop image in the debug bot, what we saw, had a similar image of the Telegram as well as the desktop of the online bot. I mean, this allowed us to think that the actor might be infecting their own environment to do the testing at that time. And also, analyzing these images of the actor's desktop on the Telegram bot, we found a new Telegram groups in the Vietnamese names. And after researching or analyzing quite a lot, we saw that some of these Vietnamese group names is where the victim's data was traded. And also, in the image of the debug bot, we spotted a Windows device ID, that is hardware ID, and the IP addresses. And this IP addresses showed us that it was located in Hanoi, Vietnam. And this could be the likely the IP address of the Coral Rider actor. And this is one of the information that gave us a sort of medium to high confidence that related to Vietnamese or Vietnamese speaking actor. And along with these, we found some more desktop images on these Telegram groups. And one of which is, one of the desktop image showed us a couple of folders. In that, the interesting is the OneDrive folder. And we saw the name, which we saw it in one of the PDB string. So that was related to the development environment, could be where they were using to develop those payloads. And then we saw another Excel spreadsheet, and we have redacted the information due to maintain the confidentiality, because in this Excel spreadsheet, we saw different tabs saying one for employee salaries, advertising cost, website to buy copies, or PayPal-related information. And it also has some of the PayPal accounts that they have stolen or exfiltrated and created this spreadsheet, that the screenshot that we found. And also, they were using a Microsoft Office 365 account with the name Deloya Karag, and that we have also taken note of it and try to pivot on that to see if there are any further infections or campaigns that we can identify on that. So along with these information, when it comes to the PXA Stealer campaign, we also saw the Telegram account with the name called Lone Nun that was hard-coded in the PXA Stealer. And researching a bit more on this Telegram account, we saw the account was having a picture which is an emblem of Vietnam's Ministry of Public Security, and we also saw some private antivirus checker kind of thing that they have used. But here, another thing to take a note that because we saw this emblem picture, we do not know that these groups were state-sponsored or not at this point in time. So, nextly, the underground activities that we saw, the actors active or the account name that you can see here in the Vietnamese name, Mua Bin Scan, which we also saw in the screenshot of the Coral Rider Telegram account, where they were operating, and mainly they were selling Facebook accounts or credentials and money laundering type of stuffs that were discussions that we saw. And also, they were promoting a couple of automated tools that they were using to manage the a bulk level of user account management, that they were using these automation tools, and they were also sharing these tools, one of which we saw Hotmail batch creation tool, and another one is Hotmail cookie batch modification tool. And also we saw that the actor expected the receiver of these tools to send a key back to them to activate these tools, which means that they were not shared or just shared freely, and they were sold on their Telegram channels. So
You need to conclude.
Yeah.
It's finished.
1 second. Yeah, so lastly, I would conclude by saying about the takeaway that we saw all these sophisticated stuff that we saw, and in terms of mitigation that we saw, we can think about like enhancing the MFA techniques and all those things. And what the future look like, maybe they leverage on the LLMs to instrument in their attack, or to use different techniques. Before I conclude, I urge the international community to think that Vietnamese cybercrime group or Vietnamese threat actors are not short-time hackers or do the short-scale regional targets, but their impact is getting global, and they are having a global threat profile. With this being said, I'm concluding my talk today. Thank you very much for your attention.